Whoop-de-woo. So welcome to the kickoff meeting for milestone 1312. That's exciting. Cool. Let's start with like some highlights from the last milestone. And there's definitely good things to celebrate. So we should be very happy of. So first of all, big thanks to Fran and Jad also for jumping on all the database incident issues and helping out where they can. Was not easier, so it came out of nowhere. It was like a lot of extra communication overhead and a lot of actions needed. So like even Denise jumped in or so, really appreciated like early on to help discovering some things or some helping out with comments. It was like everybody who chipped in or so, like really big thank you. Yeah, it was very welcomed by the whole company. And we all know that it was a big distraction, but you all did it like really, really good. So appreciate it. Thank you. Another
I didn't
shout.
actually fix any. I just wrote a script to find the ones that need to be fixed. That was useful though.
That
Do you,
is useful.
do you think I fixed any database problem? No, man. That's not the winning situation. It's participation that it counts for that, right? That's the most important part.
Perfect. Yeah, participation trophy. That sounds great. Big shout out also like to the whole team and just like for me very personally. I think you all did like a really good job or so helping us being ready for the 14.0 release, right? Because as Eric mentioned or so, it's like really ambitious goals that we have here. I think over the course of last milestone, you all did like really an excellent job, especially great on it's like this experiment, right? You've got a lot of like self-organization, I can't talk anymore. Sorry. Did really great as self-organization aspects of everything and the autonomy you did and with how you kind of like schedule your work. So this is like super, super impressive. And it was a very great job. So thank you. And I'm personally super happy that we have the 13.12 release because it all gives us a little more breathing room, a little more confidence in what we're doing. So thanks for hanging in there. And I think you did like a marvelous job there. And the next point is something that Eric definitely wanted to shout out to the team. I'll let you talk, Eric.
Yeah, I mean, in general, I've just been really happy with the collaboration among the team as we started pairing up on these initiatives, but even hot off the presses, hearing about how well the communication went and the collaboration went just yesterday or the day before, whenever your calendar shows where, you know, you had the top nav group and the left nav group, which shouldn't have been silos, but we're going in different directions, and you're able to learn from each other and take approaches into consideration with very different priorities and very different constraints and collaborate on a solution that's going to be I think just really, really impactful for everybody. So yeah, I've just been really happy with the collaboration and everything the team's doing to work to make the team healthier, the code base healthier, the product experience better. So yeah, thank you.
Cool. Perfect. Anybody else wants to give any kind of highlights or shout outs or so for the last milestone? Like I know it's not the retro time or so, but we do it next retro, but anything comes to mind? Oh, cool. All right, then let's jump to the EM and product-led part. So first of all, overall, the theme for this milestone will very much be like the continuation of where we left off in the last milestone. Maybe you've seen Eric's like kickoff video. I think it's a great summary of where we stand, what we're going to do. So that's good to see. In this case, I just want to re-emphasize some of the parts where we're doing like some last minute decisions, discussions, or anything kind of recent updates. Let's start with the content editor. So we're going to continue, of course, on the content editor MVC and still aim for like 14.0 to release it on the wiki. So first of all, what we have so far is already like a current implementation of it, which is kind of working pretty well, the first demo, which is very nice. And there's been like some late developments, I think as late of as yesterday, that we decided to kind of probably reprioritize or so to upgrade the content editor to use TipTab v2 because they released their beta yesterday. And yeah, as Enrique says, this is hot off the press. I'll let Enrique talk a little bit more about this, because this will be even very exciting thing for us, this milestone.
So yes, this was very sudden, but we're gonna be spending some unexpected time creating to TipTap feature, which is a really big improvement on several areas of the app or of the framework. It is platform agnostic. It has support, special support for Vue 3. So once we start getting into that, we are gonna have like the necessary support. And it has one of the big disadvantages that we found when we were evaluating TipTap was its lack of test suite on all of the type of extension and contents that they support. So this version also brings like a very strong test suite, and the framework is implemented using TypeScript. So yes, it's a huge improvement. We are taking advantage that we are in the very early stages of the content editor to make the upgrade. We don't have many couple points with TipTap 1, and that allows us to do it quickly. I shared a merge request in the document, a link to a merge request where we are making the upgrade, and it was very quick. The only significant change is that TipTap decided to use a different naming convention from Prosmeter for some content types. Prosmeter uses a snake case, and TipTap decided to follow a different approach. But it should be something that can happen very quickly, and I'm gonna send that MR over to Himanshu soon.
Awesome. It makes a lot of sense. It's very cool. Paul, do you want to verbalize your question on this one?
Yeah, but Eric, also, I'm anticipating your verbal answer. But I know that it looks like TipTap V2 is beta, and just raising the concern of like, hey, like what's our risk mitigation look like there? Because that does add some risk to maybe adopting this early. Or what do you all think? Sounds like Eric has a response.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the code base actually looks like, but I have been trading emails with the TipTap team to let them know we're excited to use their product. And just yesterday, I emailed them to congratulate them for the V2 public beta. And in one of the emails, they indicated that, in their opinion, V2 is already more feature complete, more stable, more test coverage, and in a better place than V1, even in its full release was. So I don't know why they're calling it beta, what about it is beta, but Enrique could probably speak more to that.
Yes, that's a highlight of feature, that it has test, and it has a lot of test cases for for many edge cases that appear in V1 that they fix in this new version, and they added regression tests. So from a stability point of view, from checking the code base over the past 3 months, they had it like in a private repo, and I got access to it, and it's definitely way more stable. Even in complex extensions like the suggestions plugin, that is something that probably we are gonna use once we adopt the editor in comments and issues descriptions. They fixed many bugs. They created a great text suite. So I think that it's like we're in a better place, even using a beta version of the product.
Cool.
And I'll just jump to my next question, or my next point, which is related, because we could probably just ask them. In the email response that I got late yesterday, they indicated they were open to have a call and chat about their roadmap and maybe get some ideas of where they should head. They said they have a very deep backlog of stuff to work on, but they're open to feedback from our team. They're very excited that we're using, and imagine we're ultimately going to be one of their higher profile consumers of it. So I think they would take our feedback into consideration as with that weight. So I think, Enrique, it would be great if you were willing, we can schedule that, and anybody else that wants to join, that'd be a great question to ask them and see if we can help in any way.
Yeah, that sounds great. Like just establishing contact and understanding what is their vision, it would be really beneficial for us.
Cool. I'll work on that. We can do all the scheduling stuff async. I believe they're in Europe. I think they're based in Germany. So we'll figure out the time zones and get that on the calendar, and I'll put it on the editor calendar for anybody who wants to join.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you. All details. Then let's jump to the next point, the top navigation consolidated menu. That's the other major thing that currently Paul and Jed are working on. So far, we seem to be super well on track or so with what we have planned. And I think what I understand or so, we plan to be release ready with kind of 13.12, which is kind of very kind of confirming. But we'll, of course, like use the extra time or so to really polish, test everything or so, and we're not going to rush anything. The good news, what I heard or so after talking in the backlog refinement session yesterday, is that we plan to enable the feature flag very early, at least for our team internally, that we can like start consuming it. There's a lot of work going to happen on polishing the mobile version and the responsiveness of this kind of thing. But yeah, it gets me excited and feels very good regarding confidence level. This one. Not sure, Jed, Paul, do you want to add anything or did I miss anything or so for this milestone?
Do you want to add anything, Chad? Oh, were you pointing at me or? Oh. No, it's going good. It's been anticipation that this needs to be out as early as possible because 14.0 needs to be the great feature flag enablement. And I'm assuming, though, we don't want to necessarily remove the feature flag in 14.0 because that's when on-premise customers are actually going to have it on. And if there's anything that catches on fire, we still want to have the ability to shut it off. So I would expect the removal of the feature flag to be like a 14.1 thing. But it should be on by default 14.0, which means we need to have it on .com pretty soon. But thankfully, it's been a pleasure working with Chad, and is going fairly well. So I expect it to come to a master branch near you. All right.
Main branch.
Oh, yeah. Well, whatever your primary target branch collective is. Okay. All right.
Cool. So please give us a heads up whenever it's related or so. And everybody's, of course, encouraged to give feedback, give it a test or so and everything. If you notice any kind of thing or so, just let Paul and Jed know and they'll have to fix it very late in their nights.
We will have to fix it.
Right. And then we are back at the third big column or pillar of what we try to ship here is 14.0. The left sidebar. And one thing I just want to highlight or so to the rest of the team, if you're like not super familiar with the left sidebar. In this case, it's not that we talk about like one left sidebar. Actually, like the target here is like real big because it's about like 4 sidebars in total. It's like the project sidebar, the group sidebar, the user settings sidebar, and there's also like an admin sidebar. So this is definitely a super big undertaking, and Denise and Fran are working super hard on this one to get it done. The admin thing is just something that's likely not going to make it or so, and it's the thing that easiest fun just deprioritize and say, okay, if this is not going to ship in 14.0, it's fine, because admin is something that only a very limited amount of users kind of interact with on a daily basis, and it's fine if this comes in a little later. But all the other 3 are very much like on track, I would say. The big thing here I want to highlight or so that Fran is working really hard on is like a bigger refactor, because alongside not only doing the styling aspects, we try to do updates on the information architecture of the whole sidebar. So this will be a big theme of this kind of milestone where we say, we try to put the refactor in place to make it somehow kind of like easier to switch around, because currently we need to be aware that a lot of other teams are contributing to the sidebar very actively because everybody wants to release something in 14.0 and want to make their changes. So it's like basically trying to build something on constantly changing ground right now, what Fran is doing. So it's like a not easy task or so. So will be interesting for us to see, and we'll probably have to reassess where we are. And here's the master, Fran himself. We made it, which is cool. Denise will pick up a lot of the stylings this milestone already ahead of like the original plan. So we did like some shift around, and yeah, there's like a lot of things we try to cover. So Denise will be all in on this one or so. So very much appreciated. What I understand or so, we also try, because we use feature flags, we try to enable it at least for our team during this milestone already, very early in the process. So just be aware you might experience like inconsistencies across like this milestone where you say like, okay, some things in the UI and the sidebar look already like updated, other parts not. This is on purpose because we try to change as we go and verify what we see or so. But just want to say, do a good glimpse of how this whole thing will kind of look or so, and to make sure that we don't wait for a magic flip to happen on the 14.0 release only or so. We really want to see that we're going in the right direction. And maybe we need to pool some resources down the road or so to make it happen or so, but we'll see. Yeah, Denise, Fran, anything you want to add to this one that the team should be aware of?
Fran is nodding. He's like, no, Fran doesn't have anything to add, right? Of course. Okay, my turn again. I've added the information at the to the open agenda place, but probably it belongs here. So we had a call with Fran earlier today, and there is some slight change in plans from what we've discussed yesterday. So the changes are good. It's just we have invented the new development approach with Fran. We called it Samurai Path. So it's not for the faint-hearted. We don't use the feature flag for the refactoring. So there are two interesting moments to keep in mind. First, the first two menu items you see on the GitLab.com are already refactored. They're not styled, they are refactored. They come from the refactored menus. All the, like starting from with the third item, those are the old ones, sort of. Yes. So yes, Bushido. Yeah. So we this is a very good approach in our opinion, because technically this allows us to start testing the refactoring part as early as now. The second part is that what Roman mentioned, that the challenge why this has to be done this way is that many teams do contribute to the left-hand panel now. And obviously, like all the major contributions will happen at the end of 14.0 milestone. So we do not want to deal with mapping all those changes to the refactored thing. So what Fran is doing now is playing with fire. And he's doing refactoring right in master, so that if any group needs to make changes to the refactored menu, they will do this in the refactored code. If they need to do the changes in the menu that is not refactored yet, they will make those changes, and those changes will be picked up by Fran when Fran gets to refactoring that or another menu. So that's the good part about the feature flag and our approach to this thing. The second part is that we will still have the feature flag, but what will be covered by the feature flag is the restructuring of the menu. So like removing some items from the menu, reorganization of the things, or something like this. So we have plenty of issues like this. So these changes will be covered by the feature flag, and the styling will be covered by the feature flag. With the styling, like the obvious problem is that we will have two types of menus now, the refactored ones and the old ones, or the current ones. and they will be visible at the same time. And we will have to make sure that the styling is working for both type of menus, because so Roman told about 4 different sidebars that we have to take care of. But as mentioned during yesterday's call, admin is totally out of scope for 14.0. We will see how far we can get with refactoring those menus, and Fran is the person to speak about that. But we won't be delivering all these all these side panels in 14.0 refactored. What we will be delivering, though, is the styling. So technically, visually, all of the menus, our ultimate goal, by the end of 14.0 cycle, all of the menus will look in accordance to the new design. So the end user won't be able to tell apart whether a menu is refactored or not. This will give us more time to properly plan the refactoring of all the panels, but we won't be able to deliver refactored in 14.0, while still keeping this sort of picture of the new design for all of the menus. And those things will be covered by the feature flag, but we will flip it on for our group once at least any styling changes are in master-main, whatever.
To clarify, are you saying that the front end style changes and the refactoring are able to happen simultaneously?
That's the main point.
Okay.
Yes,
Got it.
that's the beauty, because like
That's interesting.
in the beginning we thought that refactoring will be done first and then we get to the styling, but since we realize that not all the panels will be refactored, but we still have to provide the styling in the corner, it would be very, very odd to deliver different styling for different panels, right? So we will have to provide the styling for the old panels anyway. So, and if we will have styling for those panels, it doesn't make sense to rush refactoring those in 14.0. So we'll take it sort of step by step, and
Yeah, that makes sense.
but we'll still deliver the look and feel of the new redesigned panel to the users.
You know, I'm realizing GitLab has a sweet opportunity for a 13.13 release. What a waste.
I think we can go on and on and on.
Can you pitch this?
Yeah, I mean, lucky number
13
13,
sounds
right?
pretty cool, right?
Lucky number 13, twice
I
the
know.
luck.
Yeah, I think it negates each other. I think, yeah, I think it works out. I haven't looked at my my lucky notebook yet, but I'm pretty sure it does. Anyways, yeah, cool. Thanks, Dennis.
One more thing. So the main idea regarding the refactor was, well, the main idea is that the code, this is recording. The code is tangled. Okay, let's say it like that. So at some point, hopefully, in the short future, one team is going to get this from us. So this way we can provide something useful, and they can migrate the other menus in case we don't have time or they come early or whatever. We can give them something that they can pick up and start from there.
Yeah, so we work on the premise of giving something to the new team, like just something. Take it, do whatever you want. That's it.
Awesome. And yeah, I think we'll also maybe work on small other things that come our way, but this is the main things that we're going to focus on. If you have any kind of other distractions coming your way, please feel free to kind of deflect them always, like to me and Eric. We're very, very happy to help on this front. So let's see how we can like all pull together resources as much as we can or so. But I know it's like a challenging milestone ahead of us, but I'll believe in each and every one here. And I'm just rambling, so I'm handing it over to Eric, who has more important things to say.
I don't know about more important, but I didn't write this in the agenda. I want to acknowledge that this kickoff is unusual, and I have already become accustomed to the GitLab way of releasing iteratively And it feels unusual to be working on these larger projects, and especially 3 simultaneously, where the kickoff is really just like, we'll just keep doing what we're doing. And we'll probably have the same kickoff call next time, which is we'll just finish up what we've been doing. I, in previous jobs, was very comfortable working on quarterly goals, right? Like these are quarter-long projects and we'll get them done. And maybe they slip a month or 2 afterwards as well. That's not how GitLab works. And I got accustomed to that very quickly. So this feels a little unnatural in the cadence of our kickoffs to be discussing these 3 large projects that aren't necessarily going to ship in the next release. But I'm still very excited about them. I'm still very enthusiastic about the value they're going to bring in 14.0, and I'm very relieved that we also have 13.12 to refine them. So this is all. I'm very excited by the progress, and I just want to put it out there that I know it feels unusual, but the only topic I had separate from acknowledging the unusual kickoff was not related to 13.12 at all, but maybe just a glimpse into something that I was thinking about with the source editor and Web IDE and our discussions about in-context editing. There was a call that I watched between Michael and Mike about like past explorations of the Web IDE. Things have just been percolating in my head. I wanted to share this little diagram, and I didn't want to wait 3 weeks for our next monthly meeting. So if you wanted to be shift focus and think past 14.0 when we can free up our time again to work on the source editor, I think this is a direction. I'm trying to stall while I find the button to share my screen. I think this is the direction we could head. And I shared this with Roman right before this meeting because we had a one-on-one, and he said it's very similar to thoughts that he had a long time ago. And that made me feel better about sharing it because at least I'm not oversimplifying or way off base, but also acknowledging that this isn't like a unique perspective. It's my understanding of where we could go, and maybe I can highlight where I think we should focus first. But anyway, so I had sketched this on my iPad because I was trying to wrap my head around like what a modular, sort of extensible and progressively enhanced code editing experience could look like. So imagine a use case where you start in the repository view and you want to just edit a file, and then you realize you have to edit more than one file, but now you like have to go back out, copy all your changes to the clipboard, open up the Web IDE, paste them into the right file, and you're losing your context, you're losing your momentum. Maybe this is through an MR as well. So generally, like, this is oversimplified. So, I'm open to feedback on this, and you can correct me if any of these don't make any sense. But the way I'm thinking about it is that we have this sort of core code editing component, right? This is source editor. A lot of this is source editor. These are extensions around source editor probably. But the code editing experience is roughly analogous to the single file editor now. Like we probably introduce a toolbar. Maybe there's ways to like add file templates and some functionality in that toolbar that we can expose. There's like a gutter where we could put comments and decorate lines of code with vulnerabilities from security scans and things like that. But this is like, you know, the core single file editing view. It follows that sometimes you might want to compare that to like a different version. So we've got the diff view here where you can compare. So we'd have sort of like a module or an extension for diff viewing. And then preview right now, loosely related to our live preview feature, but we have markdown preview. We could have an editable preview by embedding the content editor or switching over to the content editor in this module. But further down, we could validate the direction and decide that we want to invest in server-side evaluation and more web terminal, like real-time kind of communication. And so I feel like that would funnel into this sort of preview module if you're working with live code and compiling. On the and so like there's like metadata that we might be able to use. And this is relevant to sort of our approach that we were starting to think about with the static site editor, where there's, you know, information about the file that we could abstract from it. Maybe, you know, we learn a lot about the file based on the file extension, or whether it's configured in the repository with the editor config, etc. And that could inform what context these files are opened. Anyway, I'm getting too specific. This is mostly supposed to be general. So the other sort of the left-hand side of this is our file view, and I'm very excited and continue to be excited about the idea of pulling that entirely away from Web IDE and building something that's more reusable, that has like a really solid state management architecture where we can have filterable, searchable files that can be decorated with information about whether they've been edited, or if there are comments or something like that, and then potentially be reformatted without rewriting the whole file menu for the use case that we've talked about, like a hypothetical pages content management system or something like that, where you're like filtering down to just showing markdown files, and maybe they look entirely different, but it's effectively still a file tree, a directory tree. So something like a reusable component there could be helpful across multiple categories, but you know, I can think of at least two that our group would end up using it. And then I think this is what I was responding to. This was the spark of the desire to write this out or diagram this out, was like this sort of like commit action module, which in the discussion that Michael was having, I think they were talking specifically around like the Web IDE and explorations around the commit flow and how it fits into the file, the proposed file tree refactor, and whether or not we have like a way to show, similar to VS Code, like just the edited files or something like that. Anyway, this module could be used in many places. I think it also came up in a call with the pipeline editing team. So if we had something that could be aware of the user's permissions, policies, and role, and provide access to all the Git actions, like or suggestion opportunities. So like this is building off of what, Paul, you were doing with the Web IDE already. If you can't write to the repo, like it should be aware of that, and instead of saying commit, maybe it's a suggestion flow or an action that lets you create a patch file or something like that, right? If we can build something that's reusable, it could be reskinned to be used on the static site editor or whatever that evolves into. It could be used on the pipeline editor. It could be used in many places around the product. So pulling that out as its own sort of area of development, a framework that we can build, a component that we can contribute back to the code base would be, I think, extremely valuable. I think our biggest immediate opportunities is this one and the file view and state management, because I think those will have immediate benefits to the user experience and to the health of the code base. So if we're bringing this back to like reality, you can expect us to probably start having conversations about which areas we should focus on and what kind of technical approach we should take, and what kind of user value we can deliver in those areas as a part of the refactor or as part of reimagining what those components are. But I think those are the two bigger areas of interest. And then with the source editor itself, I think getting that toolbar support, making extensions for Markdown preview, which I know there's already that capability, and like just really getting that those extensions ready for production would be really impactful, I think, for 14.x, we'll just say sometime in early 14s. But anyway, I just want to show you that like I had to get this out of my head. This is how I'm thinking about things. These are the areas that I think are going to be where we focus, but it all kind of fits together in this loose map of components around the source editor. And I don't know, I'm open to feedback. I'll post this somewhere. This is just like literally a screenshot from my iPad, but I'll find a way to get it in somewhere that we can refer back to it.
In terms of the Git actions, especially given what just came up, them saying how slow the static site editor is to create an MR, I think there's a lot of opportunities for optimizing and rethinking this on the back end, because the reason it's so slow is because we're doing these chatty individual API calls, like open a branch, make a commit, make another commit, open EMR, like just have a single, GraphQL endpoint that lets you do all of these things all at once, pass the data you need and do them quickly and be able to use that for all of these different cases, because they're all going to have those same sorts of problems.
That's great. Yeah, I like that. That's a good point. Yeah, and just to elaborate on the context in the Slack thread, it came up that we'll just say an executive, I don't want to throw him under the bus because it was a fair point of feedback, said that should it really take 25 seconds for me to edit like one line and create an MR? And the answer is like, it shouldn't, but there are valid reasons why it does. Like it's not inherently something wrong. There's not a bug necessarily, but it's just not optimized. And so, yeah, we could take this opportunity to build something that helps everyone that's trying to create an MR. So yeah, anyway, I know this isn't the like strategic monthly call where we talk about quarterly visions, but I just wanted to share that before I forgot.
I think it's a really good perspective, and knowing the Web IDE code, like that's kind of how the components are broken up. But there's a huge challenge where the Web IDE code is so coupled to all the Web IDE things. So it's a really awesome goal to like, there's awesome reusability outside of the Web IDE feature for these components, and that's going to totally reshape how we think about the problem. So it'd be neat to see some issues that drive us to make that technical decision, and so I'm looking forward to planning out how we can do that, because it seems very doable and very beneficial.
That's why we put all the editing under one team, right? So we could do big things like this.
Yeah, and I think that this might be oversimplifying the end goal also, but when I'm thinking about our opportunity for contextual editing or improving the experience for users who may need more from their editing experience as they go along editing, right? The big barrier for me is the decision point between opening the single file editor and the Web IDE, and the fact that they can't like transition between the two. I'm not saying we throw away the Web IDE, but if we could deliver something like this, where the source editor can transform like Optimus Prime into a Web IDE, then we remove that barrier, and instead we use the context of the user, the context of the editor, and what we assume they want to do to build the UI, and then give the person working on the file the opportunity to make the decision if they want to see the diff view or not, or if they want to click on open up another file or something like that. And it may be that the end result in a year or 2 years, I don't know how long this takes, but the end result might be that there's no longer two buttons, where you've got single file editor and Web IDE, there's just an edit button.
Our user docs say, hey, the single file editor is not working for you. Consider opening up your Optimus Prime.
Yeah.
Users are like, what is going on with GitLab?
My kid's been watching Transformers again, so it's top of mind.
or we can make them evolve like Pokemon or something like that.
Ah, yes, it's an evolution. That's
Evolve
another
into
perspective
source
too.
code editor.
Yeah. Okay. We've got a prime area of naming conventions ahead of us. But yeah, that's what's top of mind for me. I know we're all very focused on 14.0 and delivering these things for settings and navigation. It won't be our entire roadmap for the rest of the year. So I did want to get this out and let you know I'm thinking about what's next.
You've triggered my imagination. I'm thinking of all the fun user experience things. I think it'd be pretty fun if we have like the Quake style voiceovers for like when you're editing and you change 2 files, it's like a double edit or like godlike. Like that would be really sweet.
Sure. What was which was the transformer that was made up of other transformers? Devastator?
Voltron.
Well, Voltron. Oh, this could be Voltron too. I watched a lot more Voltron than I did Transformers. I think it was Devastator that was made up of all the construction vehicles. All right, this is being recorded. I don't need to Google Transformers on a call, but you know what I mean.
But getting back to track with boring stuff, when it comes to the in-context editing, the source code group is on track, and they are doing that already now, with not like full size blown thing, but with sort of in-context editing. When you click the button and you do not get reloaded page, but you just flip to the editing of the document. So it will work for the code-based files so far. There are some performance applications. We had the performance session on that earlier today, but it will work out eventually, I think.
Yeah, thanks for highlighting that. Actually, that was another reason I wanted this came up again. I had drawn this a week or so ago, and it reminded me when we had that conversation in the issue about the work they're doing there and how they're trying to get it so that you can just like switch into the source editor quickly, which I'm all for. And obviously, we talked in Slack, and you're involved in the conversation, so we're doing the right kind of collaboration there.
Rick, the other day you said something, or you pinged the channel regarding the file tree component in MRs.
Yeah.
So is your idea that we could share that same file tree among MRs, the Web IDE, or like Paul said, with snippets?
I think that is the potential. Yeah, we could, maybe. I mean, you guys would have to tell me if that's not realistic, but I think that would be my goal. Yeah, to have a shared component. Now that issue in particular, I think ended up being an area of the repository that I thought it wasn't. Like I thought we were talking about the merge request tree view. So when you see your list of edited files in a merge request, but I think they were specifically talking about like the repository list. I don't see this component being used there, but potentially the tree view in MRs, the tree view in snippets, or and for that matter, wiki or whatever the wiki evolves into, if it we take a different path down the road.
I think what they were talking about was only these like the tree, the list of the files you see when you get to the repository. That's the thing. So it's completely different from what we have in the Web IDE.
Yeah.
If we get the state, and I think it was intuitive to put the file tree and then you put a box state management thing next to it as well. Even though that's kind of something that enables these components, there's something there, because if we get that piece right, a really interesting enhancement we could add to the MR tree, because they do use the same component, but if they're using the same state, we could have from the MR view, I'm now able to look at files and maybe comment on files that weren't changed. That would be really sweet, so that I can holistically review completely in the GitLab UI a code change. So I think right now they do share the same presentational component, the MR tree, file tree, and the web ID file tree, but the data is coming from completely different places. If we figure out solving that state side of it, we could do some really fancy navigation stuff from the MR view and other views. That I think that's really sweet.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I didn't think about that. Like, yeah, that could be real beneficial as you're editing, especially for, you know, merge requests that have lots of files or are fairly complex. It's hard. I don't often submit merge requests that are fairly complex. We'll put it that way. So that kind of input is helpful for me to ground my thinking in actual engineering tasks, because my MRs are usually quite simple and related to the handbook. So I don't often run into that friction.
It sounds like you're doing it the GitLab way. So +1, Eric.
Cool.
Okay, I think we're at time.
We're at time, yeah, absolutely. I think it was a good discussion or so, and I'm seeing already a lot of excitement on people's faces, which is great. Thanks for sharing your insights, Eric. Cool. With this said or so, I think we have an exciting milestone and an exciting future ahead of the editor team. So everybody have a lot of fun. Thanks for being here. Thanks for all the good conversations and comments. And I'll see you soon. Cheers.